You know how we waited about 8 years for Bannerlord? Well, now it's here. If you want to go back to Warband, you can. And you don't even have to change games. The first mod is Mount and Blade 2 Warband. It pretty much totally converts the game back into the mechanics and the style that we got in the initial release of 2010. It has a very low time to kill, much like Warband, and you'll see that a lot in this footage. It is pretty much 1 or 2 hits. The movement speed is much faster. Swinging swords or any sort of weapon is way faster. And of course, it brings in some of the old weapons like spike clubs, the falchions, scimitars, wing mace, elite scimitars, all that stuff from Warband for every single faction. The Nords, the Kurgats, the Rodoks, the Swadins, the Vegas, the Saronids. They are all here. You can play as each class. They have all their unique arms and armor, and you can get that experience, yet no one's playing it. It is a multiplayer-only mod, and there are bots on the server, but other than that, you're not really going to be getting much experience out of it. I think it will be interesting to see this ported into maybe single player, since changing the mechanics such as the attack speed and how you actually fight in the game is something that I think a lot of people actually preferred Warbands. Even though it was a little bit more arcadey and less refined, a lot of people like that. So seeing that in single player would be pretty cool. But hey, you get to play on that classic bridge over the fucking river map. You know, the one you see on screen now? Probably Warband's most overplayed map. Yeah, it was quite nice going back actually. So this is Unarmed Damage, and no, this is not teaching you to become the next MMA fighter, but it does let you increase or change the skill of pretty much any of the hand-to-hand combat stuff, from kicking, punching, to your run speed, so on and so forth. As you can see, I did actually try it at first and then forgot that the enemies actually still do have weapons, so I should probably watch out for that. Yet donning the best armor, I thought I'd take it to a tournament. And, well, it worked pretty effectively. I felt pretty badass just smashing through men with my pure fist. I felt like I had gauntlets of fire, and they did not stand a chance. I was just able to hit one after another, hitting guys in the ass, knocking people off their horses, and slaughtering animals much like a Tesco's meal deal does every Friday afternoon. I mean, Unarmed Damage is one of those, I think, the perfect encapsulation of this video. It does nothing really that useful, but it means that you could do maybe an unarmed playthrough of the game. Video idea, anyone? I've just realized how much damage I'm dealing. 1,500 goddamn damage. I am just One Punch Man. 2,000 damage! 2016, when David Bowie died. Maybe he also died to a fist up the air. Never mind. This is the Deadshot mod, and it's that simple. It activates slow motion every time you're about to take a shot with your bow, or any ranged projectile. Well, you can adjust it to work in different ways, but initially I didn't change it at all, and well, I had a few issues with it, let's just say. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I mean, it's a shame this bow is terrible, but all right, his penis. Am I just in... I think I'm caught in slow motion forever. No. Right, let's try that again. But after we got after that first hurdle, we were pretty much set to go. I found myself a bigger army to be a part of, definitely not spawning it in, and, well, going as a horse archer, because if this is Deadshot, we want to be able to use it to the best of our abilities. Slow down as we're riding past. We can do some drive-by shootings like we're... I'm not going to make a joke like that. That's... However, it worked incredibly. This is one of those mods that I actually think I'll probably put in my main game, because I activated it so it only worked as you zoom in with your camera, so you're able to have more control. Okay, well, I missed the first shot, but you're able to have way more control over your initial ideas of the way to play. So headshot after headshot I went through. If I was not quite sure on where to shoot or which guy I was going for, just click zoom in. I'd get a few more seconds to choose, and I could start pinging lad after lad, whether on their horse or in their back, or as they were running away as like a coward. They did not stand a chance against my new Kurzei army and, of course, the Deadshot mode. As usual, I did hit a few of my own men. However, it was their decision to get in my way, and they did pay the ultimate iron price, or I guess bow price. But I think overall, this is probably one of the more utilitarian mods. Something that I could see most people adding to their game, especially if they're going for those Horse Archer style loadouts. Of course, it's pretty much useless if you're playing as infantry. I don't know entirely if it works with a Javelin, but I'd assume it probably has similar effect. It does, however, as far as I know, work with a crossbow, so you can also use it with that kind of style of setup. But the rest of this clip is me just committing war crime, so I'll let you enjoy that. Yeah, the real question is, can we be making a mod video on kind of useless and weird, but kind of cool mods in Bannerlord and not talk about Dismemberment Plus? Yes, it is in here, and you have just seen me chop off 2 men's wrists at once. They are going to be very, very lonely without their wives, because pleasuring themselves is going to be a little bit tricky. This is Dismemberment Plus. I actually played this when it first came out in the very first few months of Bannerlord's release, and it was one of the first modifications, and it's still going. And trying this out on every level, from small scale brigands as you just saw to even large scale battles, is so satisfying. Of course, I equipped myself with an executioner's axe because I was about to execute as many enemies as possible, and I wanted to see heads, arms, legs, torsos go absolutely flying. But this scenario, and the reason that I got many men here in a larger army, is because I wanted to see if AI actually activated, if AI could dismember. Okay, that guy's arm just came clean off there, but it does work. There is an option to enable and disable it, but by default, AI will also chop people's heads off and all their limbs. There is also a really cool touch, as you'll see a little bit later on, but as the battle commences and as people start to clash in the middle, of course, bodies start to fall. Every now and then you might catch a head fly off in the distance, but the real selling point here is going across the battlefield, and I was just trying to look around to see if I could see any AI dismembering people, but afterwards, when everything is cleared and the dead have been laid to rest, you can see arms and legs and wrists and shoulders and everything strewn across the battlefield with blood. You can see some pauldrons there, some gauntlets, just not attached to bodies, a few elbows. This is a pretty brutal mod, and I can imagine if you're doing it in a siege or even a larger scale with some of the additional blood mods, boy, you are gonna probably put on some sort of list or something like that. I don't know. I should probably wipe my hard drive. Ooh, but what's this? Isn't this spooky? This is the realistic weather mod that look, it came out ages ago, but I've been waiting so long to actually get it working because it is not the most compatible mod in the world. Yet it adds in some of the most beautiful and, granted, realistic weather to Bannerlord. I ramped it up to the highest level it can be just so I could show off all the variations, but within the settings you're able to change percentages, how often it's a sandstorm, how often the rain is, how often the fog is thicker than usual, and that can all be changed dynamically throughout your single player game throughs. But just to showcase it off in the custom battles, I ramped up the settings to the maximum, and here we are fighting in the desert in a sandstorm, and I don't think it gets more atmospheric than this, especially as the Azurai fighting in first person. It looks gorgeous, but that's not it. We also fought in heavy fog in the woods as the Sturgians, of course our Rus brethren, fighting through, well, what would probably be their home turf. They look pretty good here. It seems pretty cold, and, well, the fog actually does stuff. So this isn't just aesthetic. I did wonder whether it was just for the player's benefit, but things like rain and fog and sand, and depending on how thick they are, depends on accuracy of archers, and also how fast people run and walk through the area, and the visibility of not just you, but the AI themselves. So this is a mod that not only makes your game look way more immersive and is way more, I think, attractive to the player to play a Bannerlord that looks like this, but also it will affect the gameplay, and it will change how you dynamically move your men and the troops you bring to battle and the battles you take. And then finally we have a little bit in the rain on the steppes as the Crusates, and it looks gorgeous as ever. I think realistic weather is another one that I'm going to have permanently in all my Mount and Blade playthroughs. But there are so many weird and wacky mods for Bannerlord, and some small and nitpicky ones. If you have any other suggestions, leave them down in the comments below, and I'll be sure to check them out and maybe make a follow-up at some point in the future. But until then, please subscribe to the channel. Please.